The Throw Barb in Baldur's Gate 3 is among the highest damage builds in the game. There's really no other way to explain it. It's simply one of the strongest classes to deal raw damage consistently every turn. Now, in terms of gameplay, it's pretty straightforward. Ideally, you move to higher ground, then you throw things at the enemy. At the base of this build, which I would consider level 8, you can throw 4 times per turn. And if you aren't that level yet, you might find it more effective to play as a melee barbarian until level 4. At this point, you can pick up the Tavern Brawler feat and begin hurling weapons or other objects at enemies. Alternatively, you can continue to melee with a different feat like the ability improvement until you're ready, and then you can pay 100 gold to respec after you gain more attacks per turn, and this build becomes even more effective. Regardless of the path you choose, the Barbarian multi-classed into a Rogue or the Berserker Thief is amazing. Like, busted good. At level 1, we're going to select Barbarian, and this will give us access to Rage. This will eventually become Frenzy with the subclass that we choose, which will give us access to some additional abilities when we use it during combat. The best idea for this is to use it at the start of combat if you know that the encounter is going to be something that it's worth using in. We'll talk about the skills that you gain access to as we go on. You're also going to gain unarmored defense. While you're not wearing armor, you can add your Constitution modifier to your armor class. You can go the unarmored route. This particular build is going to focus on using medium armor, but I want you to be aware that there are some good unarmored choices as well, including one that will buff your strength. For ability scores, you want to put your strength to 17, and this is because at level 4, we're going to take the Tavern Brawler feat to buff our throwing damage. This feat also allows us to put 1 additional point into strength, boosting us up to 18. The 14 to dexterity is because, again, we're wearing medium armor. If you're going the unarmored route, you may choose to alter this in some manner. And 16 constitution for saving throws as well as additional hit points. You can lower this and boost your dexterity, as I mentioned, especially if your party setup allows for you to stay ranged and you have a front line. Skill proficiencies going to go into athletics as well as intimidation. This is just mainly because athletics, we want to make sure that we are able to resist some of the shoves, pushes, knockdowns, and so forth that might come our way, especially if we're utilizing higher terrain to get advantages and higher hit chance on our thrown weapon. At level 2, we'll put another level into Barbarian. This gives us access to Reckless Attack. This is going to allow us to have advantage on attack rolls, but enemies will also have advantage against us. Now, we're primarily relying on throwing our weapon. However, if we get into a situation where we want to melee or need to melee, this is advantageous. This character actually has a fair bit of survivability, so for the most part, I actually find that you're able to move away from enemies. Even if you suffer an opportunity attack, you can get to distance and then throw your weapon just as more damage reliably. And this has been a little more effective, at least for me personally, but you can melee if you are in a situation where you don't want to take that opportunity attack. At level 3, we'll get to choose our subclass, and we're going to go the Berserker route here. And this is, again, when Rage becomes Frenzy, and essentially what Frenzy is going to do is give us access to Frenzied Strike, as well as Enraged Throw. Now, Enraged Throw is the one that we're after in this particular build. We can pick up an item, creature, and throw it at a target. You can also throw your weapon again, which is what we'll basically be using this for. You can deal additional damage and knocking it prone. This is just an added feature that boosts this build to another level. Knocking enemies prone allows the rest of your team to get a higher chance to hit them and help finish them off as well. Overall, this is just very strong because this allows us to throw in additional time, and later when we take our multi-class, we'll be able to make 2 uses of this Enraged Throw per turn as well. At level 4, we'll put another level into Barbarian, and we'll go after the feat Tavern Brawler. With this, we can boost our strength up to 18, and more importantly, when we're throwing something, our strength modifier is added twice to the damage and attack rolls, which means even though we're at strength 18, when we later boost this even further, or if we boost it through magical items, we'll always get double the benefit every time our bonus increases. Meaning if we take the ability improvement feat for the next time around, go up to 20, we'll get an additional plus 10 to hit. We'll also get plus 2 damage anytime we're successful. Level 5, we'll put another level into Barbarian for the extra attack. Now this says you can make an additional free attack after making an unarmed or weapon attack. This also includes throwing, even though it's not labeled on the tooltip there. So this is why the reason why we put a 5th level into Barbarian is so that we can now make 2 regular throws, and then we can make an enraged throw. And after we put 3 levels into our multi-class, we'll be able to make a second enraged throw, giving us 4 throws per turn. At character level 6, we'll put our first level into Rogue. Now we're going after the Thief subclass, but we will pick up some useful things up to that point as well. For abilities, we can get some more skill proficiencies. I like to stack athletics and acrobatics. Again, this is just because I want to utilize and take advantage of the high ground, and this is going to help me stay on my own feet when I'm up there, as opposed to letting enemies disrupt what I'm trying to do. At level 2 Rogue, we'll get access to Cunning actions, hide, dash, and disengage. This is another means that we can use something like Cunning action disengage as a bonus action, and at the next level we'll actually gain an additional bonus action, meaning that it's less of a detriment to use this to disengage, and then we can still get 3 thrown attacks off. Again, you are capable of meleeing. The throw is just going to do tremendous amounts of damage, as you saw in the intro and during the gameplay clips and so forth. So it really, in my opinion, makes sense just to get back to range and continue throwing as opposed to meleeing. Cunning action dash as well as cunning action hide are both useful. This build actually has a lot of success sneaking into combat where enemies can't see you, and opening when you're in a favorable position and just doing massive damage to key targets. Character level 8, we'll put our 3rd level into Rogue here, and this will give us the subclass Thief, which is going to allow us to have fast hands or an additional bonus action. We'll primarily be using this to take advantage of the enraged throw. And as I said before, we can now throw 4 times per turn with the base of this build. For levels 9 through 12, you have a few solid options. You can go Barbarian 8, Rogue 4, which will give you 2 more feats to pick from, and there's a lot of feats that benefit this build. You could go Barbarian 9, Rogue 3, for 1 extra feat, and the Brutal Critical passive, increasing your crit damage. This is a solid choice given that you have 4 attacks per round. You could also go Rogue 4, giving you another feat, and then put 3 levels in Eldritch Knight, which is a fighter subclass. This subclass has the ability to make any weapon return to you when thrown. Overall, it's pretty flexible to what you're looking for, and these are just some suggestions. Here are some solid equipment choices, which are all available fairly early in the game. In fact, they're all available in Act 1, meaning you can make this character ready for the endgame in Act 1. It's insane. Gloves of Uninhibited Kashigo. This is a reward for rescuing Balin from the Bibberbang mushrooms in the Underdark. This will allow you to do an additional 1d4 per attack that you hit. Just a massive increase overall. The Swersy shoes. These are purchased from Grat the Trader in the Goblin Camp. These allow you to jump to higher terrain more easily, just increasing the effectiveness of this build. Returning Pike. And this is an enormous quality of life improvement for this build. This is also purchased from Grat the Trader in the Goblin Camp, and this will basically serve you until you grab the legendary thrown weapon if you manage to find it. I've also been told there's a thrown weapon prior to this, but it requires a very niche playthrough that most players are most likely to never take. Caustic Band. This is purchased from Dareth the Dwarf Trader, and a fine choice for any build that utilizes a high number of attacks. The Ring of Flinging. Purchased from Aaron in the Emerald Grove, which is again available extremely early in the game and complements this build very nicely with an additional 1d4 bonus to thrown damage every time you hit. This build is incredibly powerful, and I hope that you give it a try. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch, and have a great day.